Please state your name, your age, and your profession.
My name is Mackenzie Wilmot. I am 21 and I'm a bud tender.
All right, today we're going over the topic of depression. How has depression affected you?
Depression affects my everyday life. I have a hard time getting out of bed. I have a hard time talking to people. I have a hard time keeping up the cleanliness of my own home. I have a hard time sometimes keeping up with the job. It affects every aspect of my day-to-day life.
How do you overcome depression?
You don't overcome depression. You make it easier. You find things to help you out, such as cognitive therapies. But I have been better for about 2 years now, and I still wake up with depression all the time. Stressed out, I would drink or take pills or something to ignore the fact that I was so depressed.
How do you feel about the way people are using depression nowadays over social media or just in general?
People have created depression to be a social trend. People think it's cool to be depressed now, which it's not. It's actually very miserable, and it's not happy, and it's not a way to live at all. It's portrayed like when you lose a relationship or you lose a friendship or whatever, that the thing to do is to drop everything and harm yourself or cry or it's the end of the world, I want to die. But that's not actually normal to be feeling things like that. So I think that a lot of people see that on social media and they think that because they're going through the same things they have to feel that same way, and you don't.
How can society help depression with people who suffer from it? How can society do its part to help them out?
Spread more awareness, be more educated over the situation, understand that not all antidepressants work for everybody, that there's a certain antidepressant for you. If you don't even like antidepressants, try cognitive therapies, try coping skills, try running, try walking outside or enjoying different things. Just become more educated as a whole nation on mental illness. Nobody has really taken the time to sit and study it. So if we could learn more about it and learn how to approach people and educate people on that, I think that we could save a lot of lives.
All right, thank you. Please state your name, your profession, and your age.
I'm Caden Nadodal. I'm a high school student, and I'm 17.
We're currently talking about the topic of depression. How has depression affected you?
So ever since my dad got out of the military, he had a touch of PTSD, and along with that, a touch of depression. It wasn't something very severe until later on when he found out he had 4 bulging discs in his neck. Well, the quick fix to that was opioids and drugs and stuff like that. So my parents got deep into that, and so it just kind of put him in a dark hole and made his depression worse in a way, and led up to him taking his own life.
How did you overcome your father passing and just overall knowing that he had depression? Like, how do you live day to day trying not to get into that dark hole and maybe follow his footsteps?
My biggest savior, and I think it's really common in any tragic scenario, is my first things first, my support group, friends, family. They were there on the spot, whoever I needed when I needed them, and they were there when I needed to talk with an open ear. But second thing is my faith. It's something that's carried me a long way, and it used to not be a priority until my dad did pass away, so I count that as a blessing. And it's kind of something I've just kind of viewed instead of a looking back and feeling sad type deal, of more of a celebration of how far I've come and the person I've become and stuff like that.
Do you still struggle day to day with passing of your father and the dark stuff that you had to go through being raised with parents who were in a dark hole, in a dark spot in life?
I can't say I don't think about it every day. I definitely do. It's something that runs through my mind at least 3 times a day, and right before I go to sleep, it hits my mind. I don't let it affect me in a negative way. I cherish the times I had with my father, and I was very blessed to have the time I did with my father. But it doesn't bring me down. I don't let it do that. I'm just a positive person all around, and I maintain my chin up.
How do you feel about the way depression is used in today's society?
I think it's thrown around too much. I think people use it to get pity or empathy against themselves or attention. And I think it's something that's self-diagnosed a lot, and there's no credibility to it.
Now, how can society help people who struggle with depression or just overall the topic of depression?
I think people need to stop making it look so innocent. Such as a boyfriend breakup or a girlfriend breakup and saying, "Oh, I'm depressed now." It's not innocent like that. It's a very deep and dark thing, and a lot of people do struggle with it. But there's also a lot of people that joke around with it, or just like I said earlier, claim to have it.
All right. Well, thank you.
State your name, age, and profession.
Hi, I'm Caleb Wilmot. I'm a high school student, and I'm 17 years old.
Today we'll be talking about the topic of depression, and I have a couple questions for you. How has depression affected you?
Personally, depression hasn't affected me in general. I've never been someone who looked on the dark side of things or been sad. I've been sad, but I wouldn't say I've been depressed. But depression has ran through my family. My dad was depressed, and he tried to harm himself. My older sister was depressed, and she tried to harm herself. And my stepsister was depressed and tried to harm herself. So I've kind of lived around depression, but I wouldn't say I was ever depressed.
And being surrounded by it, how did you overcome it?
It was really hard for me because I just didn't understand it, because I'm a really hard-headed person. So when people would say they're depressed and sad and all that, in my head the only way to fix that is to be happy, be joyful. So I'd always get mad at them, because to me, at such a young age, it was such an easy fix. To overcome it, I became understanding. I realized that not everybody lives the same way I do, so I wouldn't just judge them or all that stuff. I would be more happy, more joyful, more understanding. That way I wouldn't get all sad, and see them and just get depressed and fall in their footsteps. That I would try and help them out as much as I can.
Do you still struggle to this day on staying on the positive side of things and not swooping to that?
I want to say no. I've seen my family overcome a lot of their depression issues and just in general a lot of issues, and it just shows me that you can overcome anything. And so I see that every day. I know people who have gone through some stuff and they just get past it by staying happy, taking things out of their life. So I want to say no. I mean, I'm still joyful. I still help them out and everything, but it's not really much of a struggle anymore because I don't have to support them as much because they're independent on their own.
How do you feel depression is used today?
I feel like people have brought the term depression and reworded it in the dictionary and just completely replaced it with being sad or just lost. Maybe you're lost some hope. That doesn't mean you're depressed. And I feel like people who are actually depressed and diagnosed with it, just it's not the same to them. It's not really fair to them, because people who aren't depressed and say they're depressed kind of I don't want to say steal the show, but they completely take it away and modernize the word and popularize the word and use it at any given will. If you're sad, your boyfriend broke up with you, etc., they just think they're depressed, but I mean it's not. They're self-diagnosing with it, and I feel like that's just an awful thing to do for people who are actually diagnosed with depression and actually struggle with it.
How can society help this?
I feel like society can help with depression by being more involved and realizing what the actual term of depression is and being more educated on the subject. And a lot of times nowadays, people just take the worst things and they create memes out of them. They make it a joke, and a lot of times that makes people who actually struggle with depression just think there's nothing to do because people think it's a joke, or because it's so popular nowadays they don't think nothing will happen, nobody will notice. And that just that gets him to commit suicide a lot of the times. Just all these harmful things they do to themselves and the people around them. So I just feel like society can play its part by really just understanding what depression is and realizing that there are people out there who need help, and they need more than words. They might need medication, they might need counseling, but just brushing it off your shoulder is not going to work.
Good job. Thank you.